So we had you on last year, and we had you on Captain Pete Alex, and now we got you on with Captain Vince, and this is the guy you cut your teeth with, I believe.
Sure is. Taught me how to fish the lake.
Yeah. So tell me how that happened. How'd you guys get hooked up?
Randomly met him at a tournament.
Yeah.
Put on his boat to make sure he followed the rules, and
Did you follow the rules?
God, yes.
Yes.
He was an observer.
He was an observer.
And honestly, I'm not a betting man, but if you'd have made
I slept
me,
a few hours.
if you'd have made me bet to where he is today, based on that first time,
Yeah.
he didn't seem that
I want to get an idea.
but he was cunning with it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know at the time. He was out there battling, trying to learn. He was a big Lake Erie guy. He had the walleye program down from Eastern Lake Ontario, Eastern Lake Erie, and I got in a little pinch. I had a mate that had to take his wife to the hospital, and he was, he was not really looking for an everyday gig anyway. He was helping me out.
Mhm.
We went through a few guys after my brother got hurt, and I said, hey, I really could use a guy on Monday, and man, he took off running. I mean, it was like he's a natural.
Yeah.
He can handle the rods. He
Fishing
learned
was something I was good at.
He learned fast. But one of the funny things that he probably didn't share was at his wedding reception, his father-in-law came over. He had a couple cocktails, but he said, I really appreciate you getting him off my couch.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Yes.
But it's been super pleasure to watch and grow, and now I get to watch the young guys look up to him. And that was one of the things I was going to ask is, I watch them on the dock. They used to come to me. We'll do two boats. They're heading to him. And if you were going to talk to young guys, what would it be some of the most important things you're going to tell them? That's vital, or you might as well not even bother.
As far as doing this,
To do fishing hardcore doesn't necessarily have to be salmon fishing. Just try to make fishing a livelihood. What are some of the essential things you got to do?
well, the first thing I would say is focus on your customers. Do what you do to make them happy. They pay the bills. Catching fish is not the number one priority as far as making a living fishing. The number one priority is safety, 100% all the time. Nothing tops that. But fishing is where it's at. You have to pay attention to your customers. You want to catch fish, but you want to keep them happy and entertained too. You're an entertainer. You just got to keep them smiling, laughing. If you have a slow day, but you keep them smiling, it makes up for a little bit of lack of catching fish. Sorry, but you have to be smart in your decisions. Keep them happy, and that's the best I can tell you. Keep them happy with safety is the first thing, 100%.
So Nick, what's the number one thing that Captain Vince taught you? What's the thing that you take away the most from your time with him?
Work ethic. If the fish aren't going on what you got there, change it up, figure it out. Don't just put it in there to put it there. You are there to catch fish. One of the things he said to me, and I don't know if I remember, says it to me. I can't remember when he said it to me. Is your fish are somewhere. There's always a fish willing to bite or eat. It may not be what you have right there, but if you change it, boom, you get a fish. That one fish could make the day.
Mm-hmm.
It could be one fish, one bite at any time of the day that changes the day.
What's your most memorable Captain Vince story?
Oh boy,
This should be.
this one's gonna have to make me think. I was on the rod, lost a big fish, went down to my knees, punched a cooler. I was crying, and he saw the fish swim away, and I heard him whimper. And it was he said it was one of the biggest he's ever seen. It was the biggest fish I've ever seen swim in the water.
The eye was that big.
I want to hear your side of the story.
Nobody did anything wrong. My take is the trouble was just flipping. You know,
It was a long fight. It was just, I was an hour.
it was St. Catherine's event, and I think we ended up in second place. We would have crushed it with that fish. But yeah, it is memorable. I thought he was going to go a little more happy, but it was a part of a double where the other fish was an ounce under 30 pounds.
Yes.
We were on big fish, and
I think our smallest fish we weighed in that day was 26.
it was a fish caught that day in the east end of the lake that ended up winning the lock
It
derby.
was 34 even or something like
And I
that.
really believe, and I've netted them up to 39 pounds, and I believe it was that caliber of fish. So it would have not only iced the tournament, but it would have won the lock derby for us. So that was memorable. There was no fault. I did whimper because I watched it just sink. And it fought and it fought and it fought and it was exhausted, but it just sunk away. So, yeah. But he's quite a ball buster on the boat.
Yeah.
He gets
Yeah.
guys that or one that pops into my mind was he was considerably younger at the time. It was at least
We all were.
it was probably at least 10 years ago. He was trying to give this gentleman instruction.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
one thing I've learned is that some of these guys that have been fishing 50, 60 years do not want to hear from a young whippersnapper. And he's telling them what he's doing wrong and how he can keep him on the hook better. And the guy's getting kind of quirky with him. So possibly it was a contributing factor, but he was sipping his beer all day in the heat. And he happened to leave the beer can empty on the deck. Nick decided that his next beer should be lake water. So he filled the can with lake water. And the minute that guy took a big gulp, he knew who did it.
So early on when I first got into it, I was very green. I was trying to learn the fishery. I wanted to it. My passion was trout and salmon. I grew up walleye fishing. It was fishing. It was catching fish, loved it. But once you hook into one of these fish, it changes your life. So I remember 2007, I started with him in April. The tournament that I met him at, the following year, we won. And we go out the first day, and we're fishing just east of St. Catherine's, 3-4 miles, if that. And we crush fish. I mean, we're coming first place after day. I think we had like 89 pounds of change for our 5. And we crushed fish. And that night, it screamed out of the west, blew all the warm and green water down to the bar. We go out the next morning. We set up on the spot where we catch fish. Vin comes off the bridge of the boat, goes down. He literally just looks around and says, "We're out of here." We just left. And we proceeded to run to the border, the river. We could fish both sides at that time. And we ended up fishing. I think we fished around the line just towards the can on the bar. And for the next, till 10:30, we could not get more. We couldn't get 6 rods in the water. We ran riggers and divers, and that's it. Spoons.
I think it ended quicker than that. It was probably 8:30 when it was over.
Well, it was. I mean, we literally had a boat go by, and the clients and the captain walked out of the cabin, and they started. We just couldn't get the rods back in the water. All spoons, divers, and the riggers. That's all we could run, and that was impressive. Not now. This year, this far down the road, seeing what he did, knowing what the lake does, it's like, okay, we just sat there. I mean, other boats followed us. Mm-hmm. They stopped. Guys came up. I remember guys coming up saying, okay, we set up, started fishing. We caught like 1 right away, and they got like 2 or 3 all day in that spot. We caught 30 fish the day before. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what'd you see? In typical Vince fashion, he goes, I just didn't like the water, and understanding the water now, it was impressive to see that he just looked at that water and said, this isn't it. It's just not it. We came in, we had I think we were a pound heavier that day, and we won a tournament. Like not knowing anything or very little at the time, that stuck out. And it's a one thing you learn. It was a learning day for me, just seeing how quick stuff can change. It wasn't even the same lures, same spoon, because it was spoons the day before too, and it wasn't even the same nothing was the same. We just sat down and he started doing stuff different, and it was like, that's impressive. I mean,
What went into that?
So we weren't fishing gin clear water, but it was pretty good water. And we didn't have any reason to leave day one. It was just that good. But the water was a lot colder.
we did catch the biggest fish of the tournament the day before in that water. Was a 23-pound change.
It was on structure,
Yep.
but it wasn't stupid like that. Got there, screen didn't look good right away. Water was colder. Super piece of structure. But I just didn't want to waste the time to even try. A lot of people would have saw it as a gamble because we had one of the bigger boxes, if not the biggest box, day one. I think it was. So I think we led from start to finish.
Yep.
So we ran down, and man, it was good that we did, because a couple of guys that watched us do that were further back, they made the move too after they fished a while, and they didn't get much at all by making that move. So it was just a gut check deal. But we talk about it. You got to be willing to risk falling on your face to win sometimes. So that was a good gamble. And if we'd have wasted that hour,
Yeah. Let me ask you that question. I think it's something that people want to know about, especially when we talk tournaments, is when you're in that spot and you make that gamble, and right now we're talking about the time you guys made the gamble and it paid off. When you make that gamble and it doesn't pay off, what happens then?
then you go to Plan C, which we've done it before, and I don't remember Plan C resulting in a win, but I do remember some times where it saved the day. You just go to your. Usually, you got to have that. You can't really. Sometimes it's not all monster moves either, because our job every day is to react to the day. So it might be minor. It might
Patience.
Yeah, it might be patience. It might be the day is that way, and actually the event that he observed in was really that way. We came in second place that year in St. Catharines, and we only had 4 fish on day 2. That's the kind of bite it was. If we'd have kept pulling rods and running around, no way that happened. So we had to grind too early, a big pack of boats where the bite was first thing, and where it was the day before. And that water changed too. Moved to second spot and stuck it out there. And I think I only had 2 or 3 bites, but they were the right fish.
That's the famous meatball day.
Yeah.
Meatball day. They brought their leftovers from dinner that night to eat for lunch on the boat. The guy on the boat was in the middle of a fork and meatball, and a 5-color goes on a board. The meatball goes flying, spoon goes flying, the plate, the to-go container goes flying, and the fish made it to the net.
Yeah, it was a 20-plus pounder.
Yes, famous meatball day. Yep.
And it just was one of those days where you felt like if the meatball hit the water, it would spook everything. I mean, it was just like not a stitch of wind and bright sun. But it just looked like the right water to hang out in, and ended up paying off. But we could have thought that people were crushing fish everywhere else and ran around with a chicken with a head cut off. But it was definitely the right play that day. So that's a big thing if you're talking tournaments, is try to evaluate, what kind of event is it going to be? Is it going to be a grind, or is it going to be hot fishing? And hot fishing is harder to win an event than a grind.
Yes.
That's for sure.
So how many times do you find yourself doing that on let's say a 2-day event where you dominate on day 1, or you just have a really, really good day on day 1, and the next day you're like, we're not going back there? Like, how often does that happen? Because it's really hard when you pounded them to not go back to the spot that you pounded them.
It happened to us once this year.
Yeah, it did.
It did. We couldn't, because of weather, run back to the spot, and we set up to a different spot where we pre-fished, and ended up actually having a better box. We had more fish, that's why,
Right.
But we still should have had our fish on day one, but it happens. And I mean,
It's so competitive now that we actually had actually telling the story earlier today. The bulk of our fish were big. And that's why we went to where we did on day one. But it was dissipated where we were. You know, we couldn't afford to look any further. We were already a good distance from port, and we had for port to weigh in early, and we were just going crazy trying to get that last fish, and we had him on the hook, and it was a small fish, but it would have been enough. It would have won it. You know, we ended up in second place, but we did not go back there. We fished with what I would say was the biggest pack of salmon fishermen there was in that event, and we pulled our 12 and got a second place, even though we left the door open by. So that would be an example because we didn't go back. Just had a hunch it may not even be this good. We may not even be one show. It might be worse. We might get big ones, but you know, different formats.
days like that come into play where you ask me one of the things he's taught you is preparation. We prepare for I mean, we fish every charter as like we can step in next day and fish a tournament. You know, you could take the tackle from a regular charter, and I would have no problem fishing in a tournament. Everything is pristine and ready to go. There's no one better at that than preparation and making sure you are ready to do that every day. That's one thing he's taught me for sure.
We got a question here from Glenn. Glenn says, if you were to put down 1 spoon deep to catch that derby fish.
Well, years ago, you know, we ran spook patterns. There seems to be variations of that now. Different. Like one of the hottest spoons, and we talked about it with Shane, 42-second spoon.
That was going to be.
So we really like. We like ladderbacks more than we do diagonals, but we do run both. So I would say make sure you're matching the hatch, because just because you want a big fish, if there's not big bait around, that's probably not going to do it. But if there is big bait around, you might want to lean that way, and it's so boring, but land the ones you get. You're derby fishing. Don't have 52 rods in water. Do what you do cleanly. Land the ones that bite, because you're better off fishing the hot rods and the less of them than jamming a lot of stuff in the water.
He mentioned the spoon. If I were to pick a pattern, he's right. What he said about less rods and water. And if I were to pick one spoon to run deep to catch a big fish, a Dreamweaver mag spoon. I think big fish just like those spoons. I mean, and he even said the pattern. I mean, I can't count how many times a 42 Dreamweaver mag 42 has gone. I mean, I remember trips where I had to boat and it's going 180, 190 down, and you're pulling matures. I mean, one of the deepest fish we ever caught came 330 down, and it's like, there's a big 26-pound female. I remember it to the day. Saw it on the fish finder. I chased it, boom, rod went up. I don't know. It's hard to pick. I mean, it's a tough question to answer because you got conditions, you got wave conditions, you got sun conditions, you got time of year, matching the hatch. But that Dreamweaver Mag 42 is one that sticks in my head. You throw it down deep, you're going to catch a fish on it here. Yeah.
One of the things that stands out, and I talked about this in salmon school last year, and I don't think everybody bought into it, because everybody knows I hate traffic, so maybe they thought I was trying to throw them off, right? But
oh, he sends me pictures. We got both boats out. I got 30 pictures of my phone sending me a picture. Here I am. I got 30 boats around me because I'm in the Viking, and he's out of lures, and he's all by himself, happy. Hey, look at me, I'm all alone.
what I was going to say is, go back and recall derby fish that clients have caught. Oh my God, it's almost never in a big pack. It's almost never in a big pack. So get away from the pack. It may not result in as many bites as you will fishing in a pack, but not that unlike deer. Sometimes the big one wants to be alone and doesn't want to compete with those agile fish. So If you're willing to take less bites, then I think you up your odds.
All right, I got you guys good with a couple more minutes. I got a couple more questions I want to ask you. Let's take this one more from the audience. Drag wants to know, what are your top 3 flashers?
Absolutely, we got to put the 8-inch spin doctor in there. We have gotten into a lot more 10-inch spin doctors.
Yep. I'll even tell you my favorite of all time is just a plain white 8-inch double crush. 100%. I go back to that. He'll
We talked about it with Shane.
100%.
People think, you're not telling them the truth, but that one will stand up forever, and it will fish,
It'll fish every water column, every condition you can think of. 100%. That's one of the first ones, if not the first one I go to. I'm gonna tell you right now. We'll go out and start fishing kings in May. It's gonna be the first thing I put, with a fly behind it, in 100% white double crush. It's the first one that comes to my head.
That's a staple. We're starting to see. I know that this has been this way in the East End for a long time, or we're starting to see more and more chrome blinks paying off. Those last year for me, one of my top 3 was definitely the new flip fin.
Yes, he caught a lot of fish on
A lot of fish on that. Some of it was on the colors, hot Michigan. But it's an interesting one where you can run it with the fin exposed or flapped in, get a little different action out of it. But we do run the big fish, but it's not as much of a charter staple. Because it limits you. Sometimes that's a good big fish approach, but it also rules out a lot of other fish that may hit a smaller attractor. But it also is tough for some of the clients because it creates quite a lot of slack in the line. You don't want to be, there's super competitive guys that we take out that I don't mind that kind of intense coaching. There's other people that get it, they get their feelings hurt. And those big giant flashers on customers, it's tough.
Couple questions for me for you guys. And Nick, you've worked under a couple of guys that I think people really consider legends in the sport, with Vince and also Captain Pete Alex. How are they different from your perspective?
Well, I've never worked with Pete. Pete's the reason I'm here.
Okay.
I was Pete's observer.
Oh, all right.
I was put on Pete's boat, so I really couldn't tell you how different they are. But as far as working under Vin, I mean, I don't think today's modern angler in our world, say the guys that are my age, understand what this guy's done. I mean, I see it. I'm at his house. I've been everywhere with him. And the pictures, the trophies. I mean, these guys, if they were to see the trophies that I've seen back to the 80s, I mean, they have no idea. Today's young angler just, they have no idea what this guy's accomplished, what he's seen. It's unbelievable. It is literally second to none. I mean, you could sit here and talk the whole week and you're not even going to get, you're not even going to scratch of every tournament place in or check or trophy that he has. It's unbelievable. One
of the things that he's heard me say, and I don't have to preach this to him because he has it too. You can't fake passion.
No.
And the people feel it. So it kind of hit me like I told him this morning. 40th season. Heck, the time good. But if your heart's in the right place, and he hit the nail on the head, put the customers first. Some of them don't want to be that intense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them do. We've got guys that want to blister their limit and go in and go play golf and brag to their buddies. We got other people that they don't want that kind of stress. They want to make sure they eat their entire large sub. And
it's just a way to get sorry.
They want to feel like with a competent operation.
A day to get home away from mama, they just get away from out of the house and they're with the guys. Some guys are like that. Some guys want to fish, but it's been a learning experience for sure.
So a lot of people ask us, especially when we bring in guys like you, how do you get started in this? And we always answer that question. But I think a good question for you is you're a guy that went from basically how do you get started in this guy to a guy that's a captain. How do you go from first mate to captain though? Talk about that and how that transition works and what you have to do that.
You got to have the want to do it first. I mean, you can't just sit there and say, I'm going to be a captain and do it, and you, obviously there's a testing and a course and all that to get the license, but you got to pay attention. I mean, on top of the fish, I'm going to say again, on top of the fish, the first thing is always a safety. I mean, the boat is, everything is kept up on the boat. We don't have to worry anything about the boat. Life jackets, everything. Everything is the way it's got to be. Put the customers first. But as far as coming to captain, you got to have a passion. You got to have a want to be successful. There's guys that come and go. I mean, in my tenure, I've seen guys come and go. And I'm a rookie at this still, basically. With some guys, Pete's been in it forever. Vin's 40 years of a captain. So you have to have a passion to do it. You can't just want to go fishing. You can't be a guy that goes fishing every day in a pin in a river or out in a boat every day and then say, I want to be a captain and do that. You have to have a passion to be a captain and put fish for everybody. I don't like to reel in fish. He'll tell you, in our tournaments, I don't reel in fish. I want to figure out the fish. You have to put them first. You're there making a business, but you put them first. That's what's going to make you a
We've
captain.
come a long way with that.
You have to be a captain. You
First
can't be
few
a fisherman.
First few tournaments, he was pretty damn nervous.
Oh, I was.
It showed, and now we don't have any problem. We're in a big tournament, and he reels in fish. We trust him totally. But it's getting past that,
There's a difference between a captain and a fisherman. A fisherman, say you go out and you go fishing, you do well, you catch fish every day, but you have your hard days too. But a captain is, you have to be a captain. You're not a fisherman. You're there to catch fish for these people, not you. And they're the number one priority.
And that's, the one thing that, especially in the era we're in now, that, young guys might look at it and go, man, I want to be on YouTube. I want to be famous. I want to do that. But that should be a byproduct of it, because it won't last if that's the real reason, So you got to love taking people fishing. You can love the fishery for yourself, but rolling with the different people that you have, and every long time operation, they develop their own clientele. Hit it up obviously with different people, but to be successful over a long period of time, you got to be able to roll with a lot of different personalities. So that's key.
Being good with people, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely for sure. And catching fish, you still have to catch fish. But like you still have to catch fish.
I mean, we're a little concerned for the future, because it's like a lot of things is the work ethic necessary isn't always seen. There's a lot of maintenance and a lot of bilge time
Which I do need to do more of.
to be able to have, those magical mornings, man. The sun's coming up. You just know what kind of day it's going to be. Oh, that's what makes it worth it. And the smiles.
yeah, that's cool. Been a great segment, guys. Really appreciate it. Vince, appreciate you hanging out here with me for a couple hours. Nick, it was good having you on
Thank you.
again. You guys got anything else you want to say before we get done here?
Mike Cook, he's right. You got to want it. As far as being a captain, you got to want it. You can't just do it. You have to want it.
Yeah.